Brian Schafferin here from Skidmark Garage. Today I am going to show you how to put piston rings on a piston. Get the camera set up here. Okay. Here I have a piston from a Honda CB350. Notice 3 grooves. Here I have brand new piston rings. These are from Common Motor. Common Motor is the supplier of all things 350. They're located in Texas. I highly suggest if you are working on a CB350, 360, 450, or 500, you go to commonmotor.com. Okay, so we have 3 grooves and we have 5 rings. The math doesn't add up. That's because 3 of the piston rings go in the same groove. So what we got here is the oil ring and then 2 really small, thin, flexible rings that go on top and bottom of the oil ring. They kind of sandwich it in like that. And all 3 of them will go in this bottom ring here. So to start, we start with the wavy oil ring first. You cannot put the other 2 in first and then the wavy oil ring. Things will malfunction. It's important when we put it in that the ends butt up together like this, not overlap like that. It seems like it would make sense to kind of spoon them together like this so that they don't come apart, but if that happens, we're in deep trouble. So make sure that the ends butt up against each other. It doesn't matter if it's this way or if it's this way. There is no top and bottom to this ring. So this one's flexible. You don't really have to worry about snapping it. You quite simply just spread it open, put it in there. And now make sure that the 2 ends are not overlapping. See how they're buttoned up together? That's what we need. Okay, and it spins nice and freely. Grab one of the super thin ones, also pretty flexible. Able to be snapped, but it's more likely going to bend out of shape before it snaps. This goes on the bottom of that oil ring. And the way that we put this on is we start with one end in and the other end we pull up to the crown of the piston. And then we just roll it. Now sometimes when you're rolling it, the end right here comes out of the piston. And you just got to start over. But we are just going to roll it on like this. Kind of keep your thumb here. Keep this going on the bottom of the oil ring. Once we get here, because this thing is so thin and flexible, we can just grab it and kind of open it up a little bit and guide it in with our fingers. See how it's getting stuck in this groove up top here? Not a big deal. Would be a big deal if it were the other rings over here because they're a little bit less flexible. But this one, we just grab and put it where we need to put it. See the gap? When we put the third ring on, we do not want these gaps to be on top of each other. We want this gap to be over on this side. And the same will be true, and it's even more important when we put these rings on over here. So same procedure. Start with one end in. We're going on top of the oil ring this time. The one end in, the other end, lift up to the crown of the piston and start to roll this thing on. Again, pretty flexible. So we can grab this, open it up, and move it to where we got to move it. Did it again. I put it in the wrong groove. Easily taken care of. Oh, look at that. I put the whole thing in the wrong groove. So, I'm going to take it off. We're going to start over with it. Put it here. Lift it up. Roll it. Stretch it out a little bit here. Boom, boom, boom. And grab it and move it where you want it. And it falls nicely into place. The whole thing spins very easily. Look at, we've got the gap here. We've got the gap here. That's about a 90-degree difference. That's gap here, gap here. That's sufficient. And the ends of the wavy oil ring, which are always hard to find after you get it on there. We just want to make sure that those ends are still butting up next to each other and not overlapping. Man, my eyes are playing tricks on me. There it is. So we're still good. Ends are butted up, not overlapping. Now we got two rings here. Both are brittle. Both are much thicker. One, as you can see, is kind of chrome on the outer edge, and one is black. The one with the chrome goes at the top, so we're going to do that one last. The one that's all black goes in the middle groove. So if you look at these piston rings usually have some sort of mark, some like numbers or letters printed up here. Yes, right here. STD. That does not mean what you think it means. That means standard. Anytime you have a piston ring with letters or numbers printed on them, those letters or numbers have to be facing up. So we will start this in the groove, and first you want to roll it around. Roll it around the whole piston. Make sure that it fits in there nicely and does not get bound up anywhere. If it binds up, then you got some schmutz in there that needs to be cleaned out. Once you're confident that it's moves around kind of freely in there, I'm going to do the same thing we did with the other rings. I'm going to leave one end in and take the other end and lift it up until you're at the crown. Once you have it at the crown, you start rolling this piston ring just like this, very light pressure. You get about here. Okay, so we don't have this piston ring flexed any more than we absolutely need to. We haven't lifted this thing way up in the air because it'll snap. We haven't pulled it way open because it'll snap. We are being as gentle as we can. Once we get to this point, we do have to flex it a little more. We do have to open it a little bit more. So keep a finger on the part of the piston ring that's in, and then with your other finger, your other hand, you're going to want to pull it out. So you're going to open it up a little bit and at the same time start lowering it down into the grooves. So you want to do it as gently and as little bit as possible. So kind of pull it and start forcing this down gently around here too. So as I open it, I'm going to keep pressing this piston ring down towards that middle groove. Pulling it open, and if I can get it off of the crown and onto the side of the piston, then I'm in good shape. So close. See how it's almost all, but then at the end here it's still up on top of the crown. So we gotta give it a little bit more there. So I have it off of the crown. Now you don't want this ring, this middle ring that goes into this middle groove, you don't want it to get stuck in this top groove. So you want to kind of grab this thing and leapfrog it over. If it gets stuck in the top groove, it's a pain in the butt to get out, and often you can break the piston ring just trying to get it out of the wrong groove. So grab a good hold of this thing and try and shoot. Try and get it not stuck like I just did. There. Using my fingernail, I was able to dig it out of that top groove and place it into the second groove. See how easily it turns. That's important. Okay, last piston ring. Same thing. It's got either numbers or letters printed on it. Right there. Again, not sexually transmitted diseases. That faces up. Put it in the groove, roll it around, make sure it doesn't get stuck on anything. Once you're confident that groove is clean enough, start with one end in, lift the other end up to the top of the crown, top of the piston, and start rolling it on. Get it until it doesn't roll anymore. Keep the thumb here so you can start pushing your thumb around and pushing this piston ring down while opening it up with your other hand. So grab that piston ring end and open it up. Get it off of the crown of the piston and onto the side of the piston. Sometimes you need to push it back and, like, you know, instead of just pulling it straight out, you want to push it back and out. Now I can just kind of use my fingers to push this thing all the way down and get it into that top groove. Boom. Spins nice and easy, and you do not want these two gaps to be lined up. So turn one to the 180 degrees from the other. So I got one gap here. I want the other gap to be here. Look at that, perfect. And so now you should be able to spin the whole thing nice and easy. Good luck.